Hello and welcome to this InterBase Labs. My name is Stephen Ball and this is part one of two videos where we're going to be looking at journaling and journal archiving. So in this first part we're going to focus on journaling, which is the foundation for journal archiving as the second stage if you so wish to do so. So let's get started with a little bit of theory. Now, InterBase has a mode called forced writes. When forced writes is disabled, the changes that are made happen and are stored in memory initially. They're then flushed onto disk periodically. Now this makes InterBase a lot faster to work with, but it does have a drawback. If the server goes down, then you may lose some data that's in the memory cache. The forced writes enabled does mean there's a lot more disk I/O happening, and that by nature is a lot slower to perform than in-memory calculations. However, everything is written immediately to disk, so it is a lot safer in terms of data storage. Now, a lot of database engines globally have this option in InterBase, what we call forced writes. And in-memory data is very, very popular, especially with some of the database engines out now today. So how can we get the security of forced writes but the speed of it disabled? And really that's where journaling comes in. Journaling combines the two. So journals are written out to disk, but they're basically the statement, what's happening, the statements that are being sent through. That's then applied to the memory cache. So it's very, very quick as a performance. And then periodically, as you define, they're then flushed to the disk. Now, if the database server goes down for any reason at any point, as the database comes back online, it's able to check the journal, find out what's not been applied to the disk yet, and then reprocess in order the changes that are in the journal to bring the database up to the point when the server went down. So it provides the combination of in-memory speed, but the security of the data immediately written to disk. So journaling is a brilliant technology to use. It's used widely through medical and a number of the sectors I know from personally talking to customers here. So how do we set it up? What options do we have? Well, it really can be as simple as just typing create journal into a SQL statement and executing it on the database. Once the journal is created, it will go to the file path that's specified. If you don't specify a file path, it will go to the directory where the database is situated. Now, I'd probably recommend having a folder called journal or something underneath there, and then just having all the journal files collect in that folder, so it's quite clean, but there's no operational difference to doing so. Now, journals have to be on the drive that the database is on, and they must be on the physical machine, should I say. Once the journal has been created, that then allows it will automatically disable forced writes on the database because you don't need it because the journaling is doing that for you. There are a number of parameters that you can pass in, as you can see on the screen here, which enable you to control when the journal is flushed through the database onto the disk. And that can be either when you hit a number of pages, periodically in terms of time-based. So there's a number of different things you can see there. Definitely worth having a look at the .wiki around the journaling. If you ever want to drop the journal and get rid of it, and this is useful if you're needing to take the database and move it to a new location and on another machine, then you will need to drop the journal and then recreate it once you move it onto the new location. All you need to do is just type drop journal. That's it. Execute that, and you can do that through IB console or through your application. So let's go and have a quick look and see what it produces. Here we have I'm just connected up in IB Console to the employee database. Here's my employee database in situ, and I'm literally just going to type create journal. And what you'll see now is I've got some additional files that have been created. These files are basically the write-ahead log of the journal, and as needed they'll be used by InterBase, and as the journal checkpoints come in you may see these grow with the additional files. Okay, so that's the end of the first part. So if we just come back here and let's just run drop journal, you'll now see those files are being cleaned up automatically. So it really is a good system in terms of managing the files that it produces. Okay, so that's it for part one. We've had a look at creating a journal and understand the difference between forced writes and having that enabled and disabled, and the speed performance with the memory, and the protection we get by writing things directly to disk. In part two, we're going to be looking at journal archives and discussing those.